Good morning. It is the morning of Tuesday, December 21st, and I'm going to be doing a drive with FSD Beta 10.6.1 from my house in northeast Minneapolis to my parents' house in Coon Rapids, Minnesota. It snowed a few inches this morning, so just a light dusting of snow. So most of the side streets will probably have some accumulation. The main roads, maybe some mixed conditions. So I've seen some interesting behavior so far with FSD Beta with mixed conditions where it seems to struggle a bit more than if the roads is fully covered in snow. Usually where I've seen it struggle the most is where it can kind of partially see curbs. It does struggle quite a bit with those conditions as of now. So expect some of that, I'm sure, on this drive. But otherwise, there's a lot of straight parts of this drive, as I've done this drive in many other FSD builds. So I will do my best to fast forward through the boring parts. But yeah, I'll shut up now and let's go for a drive and see how it does. Alright, so you can see I engaged FSD from the driveway here. A little hesitant coming out of the driveway, but otherwise did a great job, as it's pretty much done in every other build. The last drive I did, unfortunately, somebody blocked my driveway, so I couldn't safely engage it from the driveway. It would have taken forever. Alright, so not a great interaction with that guy. He was kind of slowing down already, but I don't know if that was in its blind spot or what. It seemed to show up. Look at the video, but I'm guessing it showed the car on the visuals there and didn't bother to yield for him. So I've seen that twice now, actually more than twice in this build, where it seems to visualize the car but doesn't yield for it. And there we had a stop. So it was our job to properly yield. So I don't know if it's just having trouble picking up, the car's closing speed and whatnot. But obviously an issue. So hopefully we see some improvements in that area with 10.7. So you saw there, I always love that. So as you can see with the slippery conditions, the car maybe gave it a little too much throttle. But, for me, I'm used to sliding around in the snow, so it didn't really scare me. I just wanted to see what it would do there. And because nobody was really behind us, we had some room. But as you can see, the car must have some sort of threshold. When it slips beyond a certain amount, it just cuts out. So, it's good to have that in there. Obviously, what would be better is if it notices the car is slipping, and we don't all of a sudden have to accelerate fast because there's a car approaching us. It should just let off the throttle a little bit, right? And modulate the power output as a human driver would, as if I was driving, right? So, I will report that. I'm sure that disengagement went to them anyways. But something, again, I've noticed that was there in 10.5 when I drove in a snowstorm a little over a week ago. So nothing really new, kind of expected, to be honest, but something I always kind of chuckle about because it wasn't that crazy of a drift, and it still did not like it at all. So I have no idea what the car is doing here. It really has a tough time with this intersection. As you can see, planners all over the map there and with what it's doing. So I'm going to continue to report that. I honestly think it's bad map data, as I've said in many other videos before. It always wants to use the turn lane, which is turn only. It's done that through every FSD 10.x build that I've gotten so far. It just really causes a lot of unnecessary issues. So if it's truly map data, Tesla, fix your maps. I feel like a broken record at this point, because at this point in every video so far, I think I've made that same comment. So, but I will say, just kind of going back a little bit, that first left turn back there, the car is noticeably better in 10.6 than it has been basically since 10.2 in terms of how it handles that. I prefer to be overly cautious on that left turn, just because traffic is usually pretty fast approaching from both sides. The car has put me in some rather peculiar situations, especially with 10.5 and 10.4, where it seemed like it didn't see the traffic to the sides, and then it would see them, and then it would go when it's too late, right? Always requiring my intervention then. So 10.6, I don't think I've had a bad interaction at that intersection so far. The car has went when it's safe to do so. It properly visualizes the traffic coming from both sides. So, again, some good improvements in 10.6 from 10.5. Obviously there's still several issues that they need to address, but just based on what I've seen in the release notes so far, 10.7 looks really promising. So if those things actually materialize in that build, I'm really excited to see what's going to happen and how it's going to interact with the drives that I do. And again, those previous two four-way stops, continued improvement. The second one there that we just did, that's been a problem. Oh wow, it's going to actually use the turn lane here. So I'm guessing it's because it's snow covered, because in dry conditions it never has done that before. So we'll have to try that again, this route, or at least that intersection again, when the roads are plowed. But that was super awesome to see, because I have not seen that yet in any of the FSD builds. It always wants to stay in the left lane even when it's making a right turn, which confuses the heck out of drivers that are falling behind. So pretty cool. And I'm so used to hitting the report button there, so my reflex was to hit it there, and I'm glad it didn't, because the car did what it was supposed to. I gotta say, the car did a great job just right there, and seeing, even though most of the lane lines are covered with snow, it's kind of difficult mixed conditions here. The car was very confident back there. It hesitated initially a little bit, but overall, when it actually made the lane change, it was very confident, didn't feel unsafe at all. So pretty impressive considering, again, the slippery conditions that we have right now. All right, so we just exited Highway 10, and you would have just noticed there the car did not want to use the turn lane, the far turn lane here, because it was snow covered. And honestly, that was probably the right call, because as we're applying heavy brakes, half of the wheels would have been in the snow and half would not. So to avoid an ABS event, that was probably the right call. All right, so again, similar to 10.5 and previous builds, I'd say since 10.4, I think. The car wants to cut in a little too early on that left turn, but as you can see, it still corrects just fine and whatnot. It seems to have more issues with that last adjustment at night when the visibility is not as great. It makes that adjustment a little bit too late. Sometimes you run over the inside curb a little bit. So, but overall, I mean, the car seems to handle that curve. It seems to react accordingly to it. So, again, could be a little cleaner line selection, but it's one of the tougher left turns since you're kind of going uphill, and there is a late apex again. So, but overall, the car handled it, so no real issues there. So as you can see, a little bit of wheel jerky there just as we made that left turn into the turn lane, but overall it did a great job. As you can see, the curbs are completely snow covered, the lines are completely snow covered, so it still was able to make out the curbs even though they're buried under snow, and get over. So overall, again, pretty impressive with how this thing does so far in just some of these nasty conditions that we get here in Minnesota. And again, a great job with that left turn, even though some of the roads are, some of the lines were partially covered, and so are the curbs. They're completely covered, so great job there. A little bit of abrupt braking at the end, I'll report that, but otherwise that turn was just fine. Again, a great job with that right turn, even though, as you can see, this road's completely covered in snow, as are the curbs. So that's it for this drive. I will see you on the return trip in a few hours. Thanks. All right, so good job of the car detecting that approaching car from our left there. I was thinking that might be our first kind of bad left turn so far with 10.6, but again, it caught that car and reacted quickly and didn't make a dumb move, so good to see that. And then as I say that, oh nice, come on chickies. Yeah, sometimes people just like to cut in front of us there, so you all right, little doggo? Don't think we needed that much braking input from FSD there. That sure wakes us up. But anyways, we all survived, right, cheekies? Everybody's in their mad rush today to get the last minute gifts. Just my 2 cents is to stay off the road today if you can, but unfortunately I could not. So that spot back there, we actually had our own lane, and the car makes a common mistake that human drivers make, which is they just stop there as if they have to yield to traffic to our left, but they don't. So the car makes the same mistake. It's done that in every one of the FSD builds. So every time it does that, I report it. And then back there, I slowed down anticipating that issue right there. It's kind of a sharp right turn all of a sudden, and in the past, FSD has really struggled with it. So it seems like if you set the speed a little lower, maybe that's cheating, but the car seems to do a much better job of picking up that outside line and then steering accordingly. And you can't really tell from the camera, but there is a bit of jerkiness right now. So it's it's doing a really bad job, honestly, of merging. As I've called out, this is something that's been pretty much broken in 10.5 and then 10.6 as well. I know they're focusing on that in 10.7, so I hope to see some big improvements, but they definitely were trying something new with 10.5 and 10.6 that isn't just it's not working. And it basically makes merging unusable, so you have to basically just do it manually or intervene like I just had to there, unless there's nobody on the road, which is pretty rare around here. So a little bit of abrupt braking back there, and again, I mean, if the car is able to see the taillights, it should just begin slowing down and using regen. I know it's colder, but I'm just going to report that again. That's some movement that is just unnecessary, right? I mean, again, the car can see the taillights coming on. It should at least proceed with a little more caution. Just regen. So again, a little bit of abrupt braking there. I mean, again, we have plenty of room to kind of sneak up behind this car here. So I don't know if it's just because of the conditions and the lighting or what. I'm going to report it, but from what I've seen so far, you know, in other drives in 10.6, I've seen the opposite behavior. I've seen the car be much better at slowing down for slow cars or stop cars when it's approaching them. So I'm not sure why today is so different, but not really liking the behavior so far. And because the road is clear, I'm going to try that turn that we passed earlier, that we just passed back there, just to see if the car again uses the turn lane, or if it was because of it being partially covered with snow that it used it before. So I'm going to do a left turn up here and turn around. So I will be disengaging here just momentarily here. All right, so what we want to see here is if it's going to use this bike lane to the right here. And yeah, it looks like the same old behavior is present. The car does not want to use that bike lane at all. So I will be taking over manually and just doing a U-turn up at the next light here. So a bit of jerkiness in the wheel there, but otherwise a pretty standard left turn. That one's not really been an issue there. And again, I don't know why the car was jamming on the brakes there. Very frustrating, because that's came out of nowhere again. Again, the car was turning right, so I don't know how the car determines that it's potentially a threat, but as you can see, that car was nowhere close to coming into our path, and the car was just, again, overly cautious. I'm not sure why the car is driving so much towards the center line here. I'm going to report that, but as you can see, when you're trying to hit the brakes, yeah, this is not going to be good here. So I interrupted that there. I'm not sure what the car, I mean, again, where it really went wrong was the fact that the car was too much on the center line, so half the wheels were already on a slipperier part of the road. So typically the car comes in a little hotter than I would when I make that right turn. Normally it's not a problem, but then when you have to stop on a slipperier surface, then you have problems, right? So I intervened there. Obviously not really a big deal in the end, but just if the car had come into it at a slower speed, we would have been able to more comfortably stop and wait for that pedestrian to cross. So just one of the issues with the kind of how that car currently approaches that area there. Normally it's not an issue, but today it was. So that's it for this drive. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.